had begun to play out its predictable kitchen choreography. On that particular morning, I'd managed to slide my body sideways in a tentative tiptoe stride past teetering towers of yesterday's toys towards a noise I'd heard coming from outside. Opened the door, stepped my brave feet onto the ground. The sound grew louder in the breeze. I sneezed and a shiver shook me. Stars fell from my hair, where, standing there before me, a gruff old peppy tree with whispering leaves reached out a knuckled hand. Both of us ruffled and unruly. It swooped me up into its wind-swept waltz and then held me, frozen in a hold. Whilst before my misty eyes, the autumn dawn was performing alchemy, turning treetops to gold. As if that were not miraculous enough to behold, I, unfolding my arms now despite the cold, became aware of the strangest thing. A shimmering string from way up high, attached at one end to my brain, the other to the sky. And just like those mobile phones we made when we were kids out of old tin cans, I heard a poem coming down that line, down my arm and into my hand. Of course, I scrambled for a pen, as I do again and again when these unlikely moments of science-defying poetry occur, which I assure you they do. One time, I inconspicuously tugged a phrase out of the sleeve of an old woman's synthetic dressing gown. Another time, I peeled a sad rhyme off a footpath just in time before it got trampled by a family. They, poor souls, were lost for words, limping like tired birds in crooked formation with their hearts ajar from the cemetery back to their car. Oh, and another time, just lying in bed like a thread, I pulled a delicate story out from between the stitches of a flower's embroidery on the corner of a folded handkerchief. So yes, I guess I'm a collector of sorts, but please understand, this is not sport for me. You see, I collect these things that I find and tuck them away for later. Scribble them down religiously onto paper, precious puzzle pieces in the pocket of my tool belt. Heartfelt, not a hobby, but a job. I think of it as a reciprocal medicinal arrangement, if you will, between a human that catches a falling poem and the survival of everything. On that particular morning, the gravitational exchange felt strangely urgent. The strain in the buckle of my tool belt, the pain in my body from the weight of what had landed in my brain became unbearable. I knew what I had to do, as though the task at hand were part of some grand plan. I began to run and run through changing landscapes that unraveled like ribbon, endlessly in front, endlessly behind. With powdery lungs, I ran through the billowing smoke from the burnt-out carcass of fallen forests. I clambered across bridges and along ridges, pockmarked hills that spread like blankets from horizon to horizon, where millions of olive trees were at war. The trees didn't mean to make trouble, but they needed more, and so were fighting amongst themselves for nutrients in the Mediterranean rubble. I ran past rising suns and setting suns whose indiscriminate shinings cast silver linings on buildings and marble monuments. Conquistadors and martyrs made immortal in central plazas. I ran past schools of vacant children who darted around me like strange, invisible fish. I ran through libraries packed to the rafters with shelves of unread books, where unanswered questions hung in the air like fluff. I ran past dollar seekers, secret keepers, glossy-legged ladies and plump-skinned babies, all of them rattling their plastic distractions. I ran past a woman, crying. She held in her hand a piece of shiny techno treasure, warm and dangerous against her palm. She'd received a troubling text message and she couldn't quite make out what it said, but it looped around and around and around and around in her head. It read, "Nuance is dead." It was then that I stopped, in my tracks, could not look back, paralysed in a pause. Oh, my poor pounding heart, longing to return to the start, to that blissfully hopeful point of departure, to take flight like an arrow from the bow of an archer that knows exactly where it's going and why, slicing through a clear sky. But we cannot unknow what life has shown us, nor can we undo the ways that what we've seen has grown us. I had arrived at the fringe, completely unhinged, trafficking in my pocket the endangered remnants of a dying world. I wasn't alone, but surrounded by groups of dishevelled fringe dwellers, outcasts, mavericks, healers, dreamers, wizards and masters. And written on all of our faces were the stories of the narrowly averted disasters that we had survived in order to arrive here, to share this space, poetry's final resting place. What happens in the end, I hear you ask? What of the string, the tool belt, the task? Well, the only comfort I can give you, my friends, is the knowing that stories don't end. They just stop being told. By now, we had all grown old, fallen to our knees, placed our hands on the earth, and begun to breathe. Because on that particular morning, it had become soberingly clear that this fight for our redemption is nothing if not a battle of will. So what was there left for us to do but to listen very carefully and to sit incredibly still? Because what if the answers that we seek are as subtle as sunlight pouring through a butterfly wing? And what if the sound of freedom is as quiet as rain?